All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er update. Niners making some moves today. We'll tell you about them coming up next. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California. Give Anthony Catania a call. He's at 831-521-5264. And we're also brought to you by valleyhillroofing.net, 209-481-6851 for all of your roofing needs throughout Northern California. And their websites are linked in the description. And thanks to both companies for sponsoring the Krug Show here in the month of February. Well, 49ers, busy week. Obviously, they lose the Super Bowl, and now they're embarking on the offseason. Kyle Shanahan has decided to move on from Steve Wilks as the defensive coordinator. There's a lot of speculation about who's coming next on that front. One thing to remember, there's a lot of people pointing the finger going, well, the offense didn't play well in the Super Bowl, and the defense allowed this and that and kept Mahomes down. It's not just about the Super Bowl. It's partially about the Super Bowl, but it's a lot about the rest of the year. The 49ers had the number 4 offense last year. They've got the number 1 offense this year. Last year, they had the number 1 defense under DeMeco Ryans. This year, they're 12th in total defense, and they couldn't stop the run much of the year. So that has a lot to do with why Steve Wilks is no longer the defensive coordinator. Now, I'm advocating for Bill Belichick because I think Belichick would be the slam dunk. A lot of people are saying Mike Vrabel. One name to keep in mind that could be a viable candidate for the 49ers is a former 49er coach, and that being Monty Kiffin's son, Chris Kiffin, who was a coach with the Niners in 2018 and 2019. He was a pass rush specialist. He's he's right now the Houston Texans linebacker coach under DeMeco Ryans. And he's got experience coaching the D-line, coaching linebackers. He knows the Niner organization. They know him. And maybe most importantly, with Dre Greenlaw suffering the torn Achilles, he's probably done for all of next year. And there is a free agent out there from the Tennessee Titans who was on the Niners sideline during the Green Bay playoff game, and that was Azeez Al-Shaair. And Al-Shaair might be the perfect linebacker to sign back just because, he was an undrafted free agent that Chris Kiffin discovered at Florida Atlantic and recommended to the Niners. And so maybe if you bring Chris Kiffin back, maybe, as the defensive coordinator, it wouldn't be a big name, but he potentially could get Azeez Al-Shaair to re-sign back with the 49ers, and at least they would have the replacement for Dre Greenlaw and a defensive coordinator that knows their system and knows their personnel and knows their culture. So a lot of names will be thrown around. A lot already have. People saying Pete Carroll, Ron Rivera, any number of different guys have been thrown out. Don't forget Chris Kiffin, just simply because of his ties to the organization, his ability to coach multiple positions on defense. Probably would be, a popular move with Chris Kocherik as the D-line coach. They've worked together in the past. And it may help the Niners get Azeez Al-Shaair, a prominent linebacker free agent, back in the fold as a replacement for Dre Greenlaw. So just remember Chris Kiffin in that mix. The Niners also, this is an update because they made a couple signings today. They signed Ernest Brown IV, a defensive end who played collegiately at Northwestern and then played with the Rams. He's 6'4", about 270, a little stiff but very strong. And then they also signed Raymond Johnson, a 6'3", 270-pound defensive end who was on the Lions practice squad. I like Johnson quite a bit. He played at Georgia Southern. He was a 4-year starter there. He's a little high cut, but he's really athletic. And so they added to their mix at defensive end. The Niners yesterday also announced that T.Y. McGill, Austin Bryant, Alex Barrett, and Corey Luciano have all been signed to offseason contracts. So, Bryant and Barrett give them two more defensive end candidates. T.Y. McGill's a interior pass rusher, so he's back in the fold as well, quality backup. And Corey Luciano was on the practice squad all year, so he's now back as well. As far as what is the Niners' biggest offseason thing to do, it's definitely to improve the offensive line. If you look at Brock Purdy and some of those numbers, Brock Purdy had an amazing year this year. And when you look at the fact that he had an amazing year and he did it behind just a pretty mediocre offensive line, it does tell you that, man, now you get an offseason where he's healthy. He can work on the nuances of the position, get in lockstep with his receivers. If they can just bolster the offensive line in front of him and make a sizable investment both in free agency and in the draft in their offensive line, I think there's reason to believe that a guy like Purdy can even improve significantly on what he did this year. I mean, he was number one quarterback in the NFL this year, accuracy-wise. He was the number one quarterback in the NFL this year, efficiency-wise. How good would he have been if he had had better pass protection? The Niners' pass protection, there's a bunch of different, categories and metrics you can look at, but across the board, the Niners were, in the 20s, the mid-20s across the board on all of the pass protection stats that are out there. So Purdy did this incredible, act of playing with accuracy and efficiency and winning games, and led the NFL in a bunch of categories. He was number one under pressure, number one when he wasn't pressured, number one against blitz, the number one guy when they weren't blitzing, number one guy on third down, number one guy in the red zone, number one guy outside the numbers. I mean, he had so many areas where he was the number one rated quarterback in all of the NFL. Now, he did this operating behind an offensive line that was, 20 to 25, 27, 28 in some rankings. So they can improve across the board. They badly need a right tackle. They probably need an upgrade at right guard. They're pretty good on the left side with Trent Williams at left tackle and Aaron Banks at left guard. But the other three spots and some of the backup spots, they could upgrade. And they badly need a plug-and-play right tackle. And if you could get J.C. Latham or Fugiisi from Oregon State, those guys are probably going in the middle of the first round. If you could get one of those guys somehow, some way, and those are plug-and-play right tackles. So the Niners, struggled to protect Purdy this year, and yet he still had a big year. And they struggled to protect Purdy in the Super Bowl against Kansas City, and especially at the right guard and right tackle spot. So they need to badly upgrade the right side of their offensive line to make Brock Purdy a better player. One guy that did get cut this week that I think is interesting that they may take a look at is the Bears cut veteran guard Cody Whitehair, who, man, I really like Cody Whitehair. He played at K-State, tough brawler type guy. He's been with the Bears his whole career. I would imagine the Niners could show some interest in Whitehair, just because he is the kind of veteran, tough guy guard that would maybe really help at right guard. And I don't know if Feliciano's coming back or not. We'll have to wait and see on that. But, this is a guy who might be a little bit of an upgrade from Feliciano just because he's a younger, healthier guy. So as far as the coaching circles are concerned, the Niners have lost Darryl Tapp, their assistant D-line coach. He went to Washington to be the D-line coach there. So Adam Peters poaches Darryl Tapp. Clint Kubiak is gone. He was the passing game coordinator. He goes to New Orleans. He'll be the offensive coordinator there. Steve Wilks is out as the defensive coordinator, and we don't know Wilks' next stop. The assistant O-line coach, James Craig, has departed as well. And Anthony Lynn went to Washington as their run game coordinator. So Anthony Lynn, who is one of the Niner running back coaches with Bobby T, is moving on as well. The Niners have announced that Cameron Clemens has been added as an assistant offensive line coach. Clemens has been with the Raiders the last 4 years, and so he comes in as Chris Forster's assistant offensive line coach. So that's pretty much a wrap on the Niners for the day. But they did a number of things. Most importantly, adding a couple free agents, defensive ends, and Raymond Johnson and Ernest Brown, but also adding Cameron Clemens as an assistant O-line coach, and then 4 veterans: T.Y. McGill, Austin Bryant, Alex Barrett, Corey Luciano, all re-signed to their offseason roster. So now it's a lot of work on reviewing the season by the coaching staff. They'll come up with their season-long review probably in the next few days, and then it's a matter of getting right into their draft preparation, which has already begun. They've already had the Hula Bowl, the Senior Bowl, the East-West Shrine Game. They're getting ready to go to Indianapolis in a few weeks for the Combine. And then it's right into all the draft prep, and then that dovetails right into free agency. And the 49ers really have a very clear mandate. They're trying to keep their team together. They're going to have to turn over their defensive line, where they're going to have half dozen new faces, most likely. They're looking for a linebacker to replace Dre Greenlaw. Probably looking for another DB or two to bolster their young secondary. And then offensive line. They're looking for the right side of the offensive line. Will they trade Brandon Ayuk? That's a big question coming up. I don't think they will, but I think it's a possibility. And, just because, are they going to pay $50 million of cap room to 2 wide receivers on a team where they run the ball almost all the time? I mean, they're 32nd in the NFL in pass attempts. So you're going to spend $50 million on 2 receivers when you're dead last in the NFL in pass attempts? Seems unlikely, but you know how much they love Ayuk and Debo, and so we'll have to wait and see there. So a number of questions to decide here in the offseason, but a couple additions made today in Ernest Brown IV and Raymond Johnson coming in to bolster that defensive line, and there'll be a number of new faces on that D-line this year for sure. All right, that does it for the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor. Thanks to our other sponsors as well. Thanks to all you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.